Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, of course, depending upon where you are situated on this great big globe that we're all living on, this big rock we live on. Happy Friday, everyone. If you're tuning in live, please comment below with hashtag live. If you're catching us on the replay, please comment below with hashtag replay. I have here today with me three beautiful, wonderful, inspirational souls. We are here for episode 4 of the Empowerment Sessions Unfiltered. Today, we are going to be discussing Dancing Duality, Embodying Balance for a Society on the Path to Healing. So I would love to start out. I'm going to just quickly run through each one of my guests here I have with me, and they're going to tell you a little bit about who they are and the beautiful light they put out into the world. And then we are going to jump right into the session. So I'm going to start with my lovely friend, Cheyenne Moore. Cheyenne, welcome. We're happy to have you here. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about who you are and the beautiful light you put out into the world.
Finding who you are is a never-ending journey, but I feel really good where I'm at right now. As far as what I'm doing in the world and helping to spread awareness or knowledge or happiness, I am a writer of poetry, and eventually I'll get my first manuscript out. And then I also have a podcast where I bring people on to tell their transformative stories or any of the modalities that they are using in traditional medicine or even holistic, or I mean, we can even throw pseudoscience in there. I'll interview anybody if that's the belief and perspective that you have. But just really bringing a safe space for people to come and tell their stories where there is no judgment, and they get to have that platform and that safe space.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Cheyenne. Lorna, how about you?
Mm, Thank you. It's wonderful to be here, and yeah, with each of our beautiful women here, and Brad. So I'm a somatic sexologist. I work in the realms of the sexual erotic as a portal to our spirituality, working very much with a reclaiming of the feminine and the masculine of who we are, both as humans as well as divine beings. So I create these safe spaces as well for people to have their transformative experiences, to really come back home to themselves. And a big tool that I use is feeling, just really tapping into that ability to feel through into the essence of who we are.
Beautiful. Thank you very much for sharing. We are happy to have you here, Lorna. And last but certainly not least, the woman with the fire red glasses. Wonderful. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. What a great segue into what Lorna just said. My name is Wonderful, and it's my birth name, not my stage name. And I am a brand and marketing consultant. And I am a firm believer that as women, business has just not been built to cater to our emotional space and who we are as people. So I'm really trying to create this revolutionizing way of how we market from our soul aligned space, from that feminine sacred energy, but still very tactical and businessy, right? It's not, I have this fine balance of being a woman and also wanting to make millions of dollars. So that's me in a nutshell.
I love it. I love your intro. I love how you share that this is my birth name, not my stage name. Every time makes me laugh. So, thank you all for your introductions. Thank you for being here with me. I am so grateful to have all three of you here with me. So, let's get into it. I'm going to start things off with a question. I'll go around and then hear each of your answers, and then we'll just let the conversation flow where it needs to go. So, I would love to know, I'm going to start with you, Cheyenne. How would you personally define the balance between masculine and feminine energies, and why is achieving this balance crucial for societal healing, in your opinion?
In my opinion, defining this is so hard, especially since I have a limited amount of time to answer this. So I just want to say first, the definition for me was the awareness that I had both in my body, that the hemispheres of the brain were masculine and feminine, and then contralaterally, the other side of my body was the same way. And like I was just raised knowing I was a feminine, and that's a masculine over there. As far as achieving this balance and why it's crucial for societal healing, we're all so out of alignment. if you believe in the mind, body, spirit aspect like I do in life, we're all out of alignment. And I truly don't think it's anybody's fault. But with this new awareness in this masculine and feminine movement, there are people like people in this group and plenty out there in the world that are making this knowledge known so you can tap into that true power of yourself. If you tap into that neutrality, then that's where the real magic begins, in my opinion.
Love it. Thank you very much for sharing your
Thank
viewpoint.
you.
Lorna,
Hmm.
how did you know I was going to ask you next?
I think I was, because you've been going in the same order, so that pattern, that's what I'm dancing with there. So this aspect of what a beautiful title, and when we met to discuss what we would do, this aspect of really seeing it as a dance. And for me, it seems to be, I look at it from different levels, that when we've been taught that, looking at that word of duality, that we are, there's two, there's male and there's female. And we often equate feminine with female or woman, and masculine with male or man. And I would say that in many ways we are coming into this experience, and what I say is that this the feminine empowerment or women's empowerment is actually a spiritual awakening. We can look at it from a human experience where we're starting to look at, oh, we're not separate. But yeah, there's different kinds of bodies, there's different shapes and functions of bodies, but in essence of who we are, it's all, and as Cheyenne said, is that there is that masculine and feminine within us. And when I look at the aspect of feminine energy, I see that feminine actually speaks to the spirit of who we are. So when we can look at the human experience, we've got this feminine and masculine where we've got flow and creativity. And it's actually interesting. We think of feminine, we often say yin, and masculine is yang. And yet we have feminine and there's feminine yin and feminine yang. There's masculine yin and there's masculine yang. And that container is a simple way of looking at it, is the energy is the feminine and the form is the masculine. And when you look at it, that's what we are. Here we are, that energy that moves us, and no matter what shape of body we have, size, shape, genitals, all of that, that's form. So it's right there. Here's our living masculine and feminine right in within us. And so for me, why is it important to achieve this balance of recognizing the oneness of right here within our bodies, that it's reflected out to what's happening? Because as long as there's conflict within us, as long as we're battling about or resisting the masculine or the feminine within us, it's reflected out into our world around us. So for me, why is it important to achieve or to come into this balance? It's about starting from the inside out and watching it change around us.
Beautifully said. Thank you, Lorna. Wonderful. Bring it
Gosh, I
home.
gotta come after that. Like, come on. From my perspective, I think the duality of the feminine and masculine is a personal experience. So I grew up in this very contained space of be a good girl, be good girl, you're a woman, you're supposed to be seen and not heard. The whole kind of societal expectation and familial expectation. But inside of me, I was always bursting at the seams, right? And I've taken 100 personality tests, and I'm always not the thing that I'm supposed to be based on the personality test. And then put that out into the world of reality. That's conflict all day long, consistently. And then when it's about making money, then there's even a bigger conflict. And I think not just from the space of awareness that it needs to exist in the world, but to actually make it normal. We need to normalize the idea that this thing exists, we're in conflict of it, we need to figure out where it goes, and then pursue this life of goal achieving, money making, life building, creating all this awesomeness in the world. Because that's the thing that's always, I feel like for me, I'm always in war with the yin and the yang, like, oh, I want all this. And then it's like, oh, but that's so greedy. Oh, I want that. And that's exhausting
Yeah.
It's exhausting to live in. And I think that this conversation is so important because we have to make it a normal conversation to be like, one day I'm feeling feminine, one day I'm feeling masculine, and some days I'm only 1 second in between of those two
Yeah.
things. So that's my perspective on that.
Beautiful. I love that. And I love that you brought up the fact that, speaking to the generalization, and it's pretty accurate, I would say that girls are taught growing up from when they're kids, young girls, sit there and be quiet, don't be too loud, don't be too this, don't be too that. And on the opposite side of that, boys predominantly are told, stop your crying, put on your big boy pants, man
Right.
up, stop, all this bullshit. And I think that we need to stop that and start teaching our children on both sides. No, as a girl, you don't have to sit there and be pretty and be quiet and not speak up. You need to speak up. You need to share your voice. You need to
Hmm.
speak and let people know who you are and where you stand on things. And with the boys, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to cry. It's okay to have emotion. We
Yes.
are human beings. We're emotive. It's part of who we are. It's our makeup,
100%
right?
agreed. For
You know,
sure.
this is what we need to do. It needs to change. So what have you seen us moving forward, each of you? Have you seen us moving forward in changing those patterns? Have you witnessed any of that? Anyone? Just jump in.
Oh, I thought we were still going in the same
No, no,
system.
no,
Go,
no. Let's
Moonbeam.
now it's just a free for all. Just go. Let's go.
I would
Alrighty, I'll go. I'm like, I waited long enough. I'll go. To piggyback off what Lorna said when she explained like the feminine rise as far as the spiritual awakening, when I tapped into that energy involuntarily, even though I'm super grateful for it, that is when I was really able to see that all this information that I had researched behind the scenes for so long was actually real and it was actually happening now in this time. And I'm a part of that experience and that expansion. So for the past 5 years, I've really dug my heels into the masculine and feminine aspects of my personal healing. And it could just be because it's absolutely one of my favorite topics in the whole wide world, from the love story of it and all the way like to the science backing it of, again, the neutrality that you need to be in to have that. But what I've seen and I've experienced through people I've interviewed, through people I've met, and just everyday situations and what people are going through in life, like they're realizing that they're missing another aspect of themselves. And a lot of people will pinpoint it to the suppression of the feminine for so long, whether it's in reality or in energy. So the mass consciousness expansion and the rise of human consciousness that we're all seeing, it is 100% the feminine coming to rise and get all of the darkness out alongside the age of Aquarius, and even let all of these masculines, like when people, especially if you talk about like divine feminine, divine masculine stuff on the romanticized version of DFDM, you'll have like all of these things that'll tell you like, oh, the feminine wakes up first in a stance, and it's the feminine energy, so it doesn't matter like what body you're in, like what vessel you're in. So when you think about, well, why would the feminine wake up first? Because those masculines that have been so traumatized, so suppressed, so even put in their own box, like you're a provider, that's what you do, just go out and do. When they fall apart, they're going to need that compassion and that nurturance and that forgiveness from the feminine. So if the masculines woke up first, that'd be a little weird, right? Because like nurturance isn't like one of their top five. You know what I'm saying? Like that comes natural from a feminine. So seeing it out in the world and knowing that like not everybody sees it, but if you see it, you are tapped into a true like universal change that we're all so lucky to honestly be a part of and see.
Powerful. I was just I was being interviewed on a podcast just before I jumped onto this, and one of the questions that the woman asked me is, what if we stripped away, all of us as humans, stripped away our meat suits that we're in, and
Mm.
we are just souls? Are we more masculine? Like, does each person have more masculine energy in them or more feminine, or is it an equal balance? What are your thoughts on that?
Wow, that's an interesting thought. I've never really believed we're one or the other. It's just the acceptance of the common, the general public, I think is what is more of a conflict
Mhm.
versus having to fight it within about, am I more masculine or more am I feminine? It's like when I step out of the house, like, ooh, which meat suit am I gonna wear today? The more masculine or the more feminine? And I love what Shannon was saying about how I can feel that collectiveness. This right here, Brad, when I met you, I was like, no way this guy is only talking to women. Like, what? That you know what I'm saying? Like you actually brought it to the forefront of like
Mhm.
getting it out of the concept. It's been so conceptualized for so long, but we're not really moving into it. And then when the world kind of felt like, oh, we're going to die from a cough, it shifted all of our views of what's really important.
Yeah,
And what's really important is to live out the life you're meant to live. And that
100%.
life can't be in war. It has to be in peace of your feminine and masculine.
And
That's my
love.
thought, anyways.
And love. I had a woman say to me
Yeah.
yesterday, she's like, I had a discovery call with her, and she said, "Can I tell you something?" I'm like, "Sure." She says, "I was connected or introduced to you and your work over a year ago." And she said, "I checked it out. I checked out your page, your community. It's like, there's no way. What the fuck? Who the fuck does this guy think he is? Talking like trying to empower women and lift. Who the fuck does he think
Yeah.
he is?" And then here we are on a call over a year later. It's like, oh my God, I love what you're doing. It's needed. And
Hmm.
it's just funny, that dynamic. And there have been a handful of women that have said that to me. It's like, what's the angle here? Really? What are you really trying
Hmm.
to do here? But for the most part, it's been incredible support. And then of course, when they hear the motive and the mission and the inspiration behind it, they get it. But it's just funny
Right.
that that is the on. And why is that? Why should I be perceived as that? That's not right, in my
Right.
opinion. That's not fair to me. You don't know me from Adam. So who are you to say, the fuck's this guy on about? What's his angle? What's he trying to do here? What's his ulterior motive? And I think that's wrong
Hmm.
that I get perceived that way just because I'm trying to help women. Now, again, it doesn't happen very often, but it has a handful of times. And I just find it very interesting.
I think it says more about them than it ever does you, right? Like you should never take it
Totally.
personally.
Hmm.
Because like even when I was introduced to you, I was like, there's a guy that specifically wants to help women. And then like I went in like G.I. Jane to the situation, like, yeah, let me take my notebook because I'm about to TMZ this guy. There's no way there's a man out there dedicating his life to women on this
Right.
this scale, this magnitude. So we started talking and he said one thing that I still like, it became my goal in life when he told it to me, and he explained how he always wanted to help expand the voices and just everybody has a story, but especially women, like we really need to help them. And I was like, okay. And he's like, but when we get to the top, like, we're not going to shut the doors. We're going to send the elevator back down. And I was like,
Right.
you, sir, I will work with. I believe your intentions. And I mean, I don't know how long we've known each other, if it's a year or over, but everything that he does, I'm just like, Brad's a really good embodiment of a masculine that is working on healing himself, and he heals
Hmm.
out loud, but he also helps people while he's doing it. And I think the more that we partner with people who just get what we're supposed to be doing with helping each other, that's only going to strengthen the collective.
Agreed.
Thank you. I receive all of that, Cheyenne. But it's true. If we can come together and work together as
Hmm.
allies. No more of this masculine and feminine bullshit. Yes, we all have both within us. So let's embrace that. Let's come together as human beings
Right.
and let's start working together as a team to raise the vibration of the collective, to start healing society. It's needed.
Right.
It's actually, I love this discussion. It's so, it's just rich and beautiful. I use different ways of looking at things, a mirror being one of them and story being another one. Uh,
Mm.
and looking at um, and I'm going to bring up another analogy, is that of a treasure. When you think about a treasure, what would we do? We take a detour from it, right? If we want to not let somebody else know something that's valuable, we put it under lock and key. We put a detour, we distract people from it, right?
Yeah.
And so if we look at, I like to look at the aspect of our human experience, our human divine experience, but as a mirror. Is that when you look in the mirror in the morning, I think probably each one of us did for whatever reason, but when we look in the mirror, we're actually seeing the opposite. And so I see that what we've been living in, call it the patriarchy as we've known it, that with the feminine, with women being repressed and all of that, and the masculine or the males up, it's actually the opposite. And why? Because there's such power in the feminine, in that energy, that let's distract it, let's put it down so that we can know it's opposite. And so when we can start to then the feminine arisement is actually that of bringing this into awareness of that treasure that's there. And it's fascinating because, like you, Wonderful, I also was raised in a very conservative home, and I was raised in a Christian home, and save yourself for marriage. So very, very disconnected from my own body and my own sexuality, because my body, my sexuality belongs to my husband, it belongs to the marriage. It wasn't even mine.
Right?
Very disconnected from myself. And so again, so many ways where in the story of our human experience, it's reinforced over and over. And so what's a fascinating thing is, in my journey through my midlife sexual awakening at the age of 47, where all of a sudden I had this awakening, not only to my own body, but to seeing things from a different way. And my journey included taking me into the realm of being a pro dom, where people would come, and it was mostly men. So I got to be in this role of this femdom, and these males who would come and seek submission and train me. And what I realized was that that's our whole piece, is these men who are seeking this leadership of the women. And so my work is coming into our wholeness, sexual freedom, and spiritual wholeness through the feminine-led life. And so these males that are there, it's seeking this, what your will is, what do you want? Break my will and take me into this place and shape me as you choose. And I had an awareness years later, was that that's our human and spiritual experience, is the dark night of the soul, is the breaking down of that identity of who we are. And so the masculine is this representation of our human experience. The feminine is that energy and in our lived experience. And so it's a natural thing then that the feminine leads and the masculine is there in support of that. Because if we are spirit beings, if we don't have a form to play around in, there is no human experience. So bless this masculine that holds us. But when we have been taught that males are to be feared, protected, we need to protect ourselves, and that females, don't be a wussy, like Brad, like you said, right? Don't be a pussy, don't be a wussy, don't cry, don't you throw like a girl. That not only are we creating this duality about what seems to be separate from us, but we're also, as I've experienced it, is that we're also rejecting that part of ourselves. And so when we can recognize those parts where there's the fear, there's that part of fear of a male outside, that there's that part of us that still hasn't owned and celebrated, embraced the masculine aspect of who we are. And for the males who are still saying, don't be a crybaby, all of that, there's that part that's saying, there's some part of me, as a feminine part of me, that I've not yet owned. So for me, it's just this glorious opportunity when we can come together here, like we're saying, to have these conversations, to tap into it as an energetic experience through the form, that there's where the arising is, and we all get to rise together, starting from the inside out.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I'm like, keep talking.
And I'm hanging on every word, like, that's it. No, that's it. No, that's it.
Yeah. I hear so much surrender in what you're talking about from the masculine. Like it takes me back
Mm,
to like the story of Kali waiting to surrender to her divine counterpart. Like that's what I hear when you like he's on his knees and he's like, please, like take this from me. And there's just a certain point in the journey where you have to get to where you do surrender to the grief of knowing and not knowing who you are. And then I think that's when the journey really begins, when you're like, I have missed an extremely big part of myself most of my life. Now I'm online and now the healing really begins. And I just think that's every word you said was just so on point and powerful.
and extremely healing too, because I think in this format of the way you explain it with not just compassion but truth, and then we have Brad, right? Like so it's this whole kind of,
Brad.
you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's like this whole well-roundedness of like the speaking of truth. And I think that's the shattering of this image, is having this format right here, having women who, and then having a male that supports that arena so openly and lovingly. And then it's just that's what it's supposed to be like. That's what we are without the meat suits, right? Is
Yeah,
that
for sure.
this version that we're talking about. So thank you. That was, I'm
Powerful.
feeling all
We
kinds of empowered right now. Shoot.
And I don't know about you, but I think it probably happens for each of one of us. Sometimes we have somebody that says something to us, decades, years ago, when we're children, all the way along, but somehow it always stays up here. There's something about it, and you don't realize the gem of it until later on. I remember I was married to my first husband for 30 years, and as we were in our last few years of really trying to figure out how can we make this work, he said to me, he said, we are like a fire. You're the flame and I'm the rocks around you. And I resented that because for me as a free spirit, I felt he was trying to contain me, trying to control me, and trying to restrict who I was. It wasn't until 10 years later, after my spiritual awakening, that my sexual awakening, I realized, the wisdom of that's our masculine feminine, because it is through the flame, is that transformative power, that energy, that refining fire, that force of life. And it is with those rocks around it that hold it in and create that container that allow that fire to burn as powerfully and as beautifully as it can.
Ooh.
And I didn't realize that at the beginning. I just thought, as I stared. So it's just
How
kind of,
dare you try and contain me?
that's right. And realizing that as the masculine, he was saying in his way that he knew is, I'm holding you, I'm letting you, I'm supporting you, all
Burn, baby,
you can
burn.
be.
I love that's a powerful analogy. That is beautiful. And
Yeah.
fuck. Wow. He was just
Yeah.
supporting you to
There's the
burn as
spirit.
bright as you possibly can.
That's right. And there's spirit as the flame. There's the form as the rocks. There.
Wow.
Ooh.
That's beautiful.
I don't even know what the fuck to follow that up with.
Yeah, she's hard to follow up.
She
Maybe
is.
you should
Yeah.
dance from now on.
Right.
I
I
just think,
agree. That's a great, you're such a you're so eloquent in describing, I think, the emotions of women, and especially in the state, like just from my perspective of Cheyenne, she's gone through this journey, right? I feel like I'm in the middle of the journey of really expressing that flame, and but there's nowhere to find what it looks like or what it should, I can't hear it anywhere else. But when I do, it's almost kind of this, oh, should I be wearing a turban too? You know what I'm like? It's really tough to be represented correctly.
Mm.
And I think that that's what both of you bring to the table, is you represent the women in us that are going through the journey of expressing the feminine, because the representation just is not equal to who we currently are living. right? We're
Mhm.
not going to go sell all our goods and shave our heads and go live in the forest. That's just not how it's going to work for everyone. But we're struggling through that journey too. So I just want to thank both of you for allowing that expression to feel like, okay, I'm not on my own.
Mhm.
And
I'm
that
it's good.
isn't that the
I
biggest part of it
appreciate
is
that.
people coming forward and sharing their stories,
Yes.
sharing their journeys to let other
Yes.
people, you know what, you're not alone. You have
Right.
people around you, you have support, and that's part of our duty is to surround ourselves with like-minded people who follow the same
Right.
things that we believe in and support. And coming to again, it always comes back to community, always. And
Right.
community is the foundation for it, and then storytelling and all of these things are the threads that we weave through it to create
Mhm.
that. But we need to, so what is the masculine role in all of this then?
Mm.
From personal experience, I would
Mhm.
say just utterly realizing before you even get into like generational trauma work and you're like finding yourself, you're like, what energy do I operate out of, and how long have I operated out of this? And then after I answered those questions, I was like, well, who taught me this? Because I had a mother and a father.
Mhm.
But then I had a dad and a stepmom in one household, and I had my mom who played the mom and dad. So where I learned most of my masculinity, and it doesn't matter if your arm's cut off, put your shoes on and go to work type mentality, that was definitely my mother. She did everything under the sun. Even if she was sick, she went and she did it. And not that it didn't take a toll on her over times, because I know that she had plenty of her struggles, but she would just, if you would like try to kind of break down like how she's feeling, she'd be like, I'm good, it's fine, everything's fine. And then, as you get older and you start doing your own work, you like call your mom and check up on her and thank her for the last 33 years of your life. Because me putting myself in my mom's shoes, having 3 kids and working all those jobs and putting herself back into school, I can humbly say that I don't think that I would have the strength to do what she did. Obviously, those weren't the cards I were dealt, so luckily, I will not know that venture. But when
Mhm.
I look at her, I know that a lot of my healing actually comes from a mother wound, not because of what she did wrong, but the fact that she had to operate out of masculine energy for so long. So that's just what I've learned. When we grew up at our dad's house, like we were tomboys. We grew up on a farm. We went hunting. We shot guns. We rode 4-wheelers. So I grew up with 2 lives. And being like a feminine girl was like, you guys are so freaking boring. I'm going to go ride my 4-wheeler and you're going to date boys for their 4-wheelers. I don't need to use boys for their stuff. I have my own. And I knew that from a very young age. And I was very blessed with multiple families, because we are a family of divorce, that gave us so many different perspectives on masculine and feminine. But as far as like, again, going back into the generational trauma stuff and you're looking, where did the masculine energy come from? That was
Mhm.
one of the biggest turning points for me, because I wasn't blaming anybody. I was just trying to figure out, like, why do I not feel safe feeling feminine? Why, when I go out into a crowd, am I the one covering my friends' drinks? Why do I have the baseball bat in my car when my friend's boyfriend messed up? Because like if your boyfriend messed up, I was the one that you called, because I'm the scary protector for you. So I lived out in masculine energy so much that one day I sat down and I was like, okay, well, where's my feminine? And I sit down and I meditate and I was like, I'm a girl, but like I don't feel safe to be a girl. Now I have to ask myself, why am I not safe being me? Why am I not safe
Mm.
singing and speaking? Why do I shudder when I go into places? I know how freaking amazing I am. I know how much I love people. I know my true intention. But then I'll go and I'll like cloak myself and I'm like, no, just don't look at me, please. And I had to sit down and ask myself, like, why do I do that? Because of all these crazy things we don't have time to discuss. But these are the questions that I think ask themselves when they're wondering, like, what polarity do they
Right.
do they operate out of? Where did it come from? And then when you find your feminine, you hug the shit out of that girl because she is tired and she wants to be seen, and it will feel angry when it's rising. Like when it was like hashtag villain era all over TikTok. No, baby, that's the rise of the dark divine feminine coming out because she's been tired of being told to shut up and sit down and be good and go make the dinner or go do the laundry or come to me
Right.
if I need you, all of these like honestly like toxic patriarchal things that are obviously a part of it. But when it comes to the healing of it, I have had so much freaking fun just meeting my feminine. I lived most of my life without 50% of myself most of the time. And that's why when Lorna was talking about what her work is, that is some of the most passionate healing I think anybody can do in their life. Because when you said, you're supposed to wait until marriage, my body and my sexuality is like gifted over to like this man. Basically, he's in charge of it. That is so powerful. If people don't know, that's what they're doing with purity culture and the divisiveness of girls save your virginity and boys
Right.
save it as soon as possible.
That's
Like you
that's a
can't
whole other
I
you
love
fucking
how you
episode.
say divisiveness too. Like that is so true. It's not divisive on the exterior, it's divisive in the interior. Because
and
that's
you're
where I
giving
feel
it.
like, yeah. And then
Yeah.
you beat yourself up because you're like, why the fuck did I just allow that to happen? And you're
Yeah.
in your own little war.
Mhm.
So I want to go after, because I know Lorna is gonna bring us home real good. Is I have the opposite type of situation though. I grew up in a household where feminine, as a girl, I'm the youngest girl, only girl, right? It was a big deal to be in pageants, and so I fought it every step of the way. I was giving everybody the finger from day one of like, oh, you want me to be feminine, right? And then I go to an all-girl boarding school just to shut me up even more. They send me away to a all-girl boarding school. But what's interesting is in my healing journey, I didn't want to sever or cut off, because that's what I thought I was supposed to do, right? I'm just going to cut the head of the dragon of the masculine. But what I learned was to love it. And that was something I did not know. That was the most healing aspect of that feminine and masculine, is to tell my masculine, thank you. Thank you for existing. Thank you for being you. Thank you for fighting my battles. Go rest now, because big dog's about to come out. The feminine energy is, so it really, to me, that was the most healing part, is knowing that I don't have to get rid of any part of me, is to fully be embraced in it, in that space of duality, right? And to go look back at my life and go, both served me well. I was just really fighting for my masculine because everybody wanted me to be feminine. So then I had to figure out, well, what was that about? And it just goes on, and every step, one more layer of awesomeness comes through. And I really just, I love how you said divisiveness, because I think people assume that's an outside experience when really it's not, right? Because I was that, when you were describing of, well, how do I feel in my feminine body? I was pissed at my feminine body all the time, like, oh, another pageant. This is shit. And then I would win every time, and it made me angrier. It was like this ongoing, like, oh, I didn't want to win. Throw this crown at the crowd. So it's a very fascinating space to exist.
Yeah.
And I love that we're having this conversation.
I just want to
You
share a
just
couple of
unlocked.
I just want to share a couple comments.
Okay,
Sorry, Cheyenne.
you're fine.
Abigail says, I love my masculine self as much as I love my feminine self. My masculine self led the way most of my life, and when it felt safe, my feminine emerged, and now I walk in a
Mm,
dance.
eh,
Deborah says, this is
that's
such a fabulous discussion. Thank you. Abigail's chime. Yes, truth, all of the things. So this is what we need to do. We need to have these
mhm.
conversations. And I love that you brought up the whole dragon thing, because again, this on this podcast interview I just did, the host brought up the fact that one of her friends, a woman, contacted her. She's an artist as well. She asked her to draw a dragon. So what she did was drew a feminine dragon with other
Mm.
like flowers and other things around it. And she sent it off to her. And her friend came back and said, no, that's not the type of dragon I want. I want a masculine dragon. So she went back and she did this like bravado, like this big menacing dragon. She sent it back. She came back, said, no, that's not what I want. So she said it finally clicked to her what her friend wanted. She wanted a divine masculine dragon.
Mm.
So I thought that was very interesting. You brought up dragon. I just had to share that.
Wonderful. You unlocked a lot of core memories for me with your story. So I'm glad that you shared that.
Oh, thank you for sharing. You two are opening the doors for me in my own private conversations in my
Mm-hmm.
head, because again, like I said, you two really represent the who I am, but I don't see it anywhere else, right? And I think that's so powerful to be you and to be here because you help people like me normalize our journey without having to seek the kundalinis of the world type of
Oh, thank you for saying that. I just got done doing a dark spirituality episode, so that just resonates with me so deep because you're absolutely correct. It should be normalized. It should be a grounded conversation, but let's go first and let's have good intentions with it.
There you go. Lorna, let's hear from you.
I was just thinking in terms of wonderful, your aspect of the business of working with that, and I think it's such a powerful thing because so often we look at business from maybe a lens of the masculine, and so to be able to recognize that creativity that's there, that as feminine, and that structure that's there as the masculine, that really allows that a business to really thrive, a person to be able to lean into the structure, to be felt supported, and to be able to let that creativity flow. So what a gift, as a business person, as a somebody who does the branding, to create that container for people. And as I was just recalling, as we're talking about the feminine, masculine, and the dragon aspect, is when we look at the yin and yang of feminine and yin and yang of masculine, that the Kali is that yin or that yang feminine is that destroyer, that one who says, "Oh,
Mm,
I'm ready for justice. I am ready for, we need to stand up for it." That's the feminine. And we often look at warriors as being masculine rather
yeah,
than, and to be able to allow that power of transformation is feminine. And and
right.
that nurturing, that creative is the feminine as well. And on the other side and so we've got feminine that is receptive, and the masculine who is action. And yet you look at the scrotum, it's holding, it holds.
Mm,
So even I had a few months ago, I had that realization that when we're in sessions or in working with people, I'm holding space for you. That's the masculine. I'm holding this space.
mm.
Okay, can I just say something here though?
Wow.
Not everyone knows how to hold space. That is a
No.
skill set that we
True.
all need to
Very
learn. Sorry, I just
true.
had to chime in there.
And that's yeah, thank you for speaking that. And it's almost when we can really start to, and that masculine yang is that action, that protection, that all of that. And so this dance, when we talk about this dance, and sometimes when we talk about a balance, for me, it really becomes more of that dance, as we talked about, is where sometimes a dance is forward, sometimes it's sideways, sometimes it's this.
Mm.
It's that movement that's happening. It's that dynamic expression and lived experience. And it's just, to me, I'm just getting shivers as we're talking about all of these things,
Oh,
and this awareness of, yeah, of this all coming forward. And so much that shroud of shame, as I call it, that's what we've been living in. And the more that we come into our communities, the more as we have these conversations, it's like we're taking off the shroud of shame. We're
Mm,
taking off the shroud of should. We're taking
mhm.
off the shroud of shouldn't. We get to stand and rise as who we are in our wholeness that way. And I see when I talked earlier about, I use story as well as a big piece. When I taught school, that was one of my jobs as a writing specialist. I got to teach children how to write stories. And sometimes it was, the dragon was sleeping. It heard somebody come in to try to steal the treasure. It blew flame on them. They died. The dragon went back to sleep, So it can be as simple as that. And yet we have ones that, there are trilogies that are, thick, 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 and 7 books or 8 books in a series. It's just kind of how we do it. And so to allow that, it seems to me that this aspect of the societal healing, which starts from within, it's important that we put down, and we've talked about that, is putting down the battle. It's not a battle, but to recognize, in the way my lens is through a story, is that everything that has happened, we are the lived story. And so if we can look at everything that has come before us, every place where somebody said something, every time there was a trauma, a wounding that happened, a place where we were told to shut down, where here, who gives this woman? Here's my property. I'll give my property to be married to this man, this, all these different ways. Or don't cry, boys, toughen up,
Yeah.
toughen up, be a man. And all of these things are ways where we have hidden our power, where we have hidden the truth of who we are. So this awakening comes back from, it comes, as I see it and experience, it's about putting down the battle and saying, can we, every time we encounter a place where there was a trauma, a wounding, a battle that happened, can we feel into it? Can we re-own the power of who we are that takes us back home on this journey back home to who we are, not only on our oneness of humanity in our individual experience as the collective, but also into that remembering that we are spirit living this human experience.
Yes.
Lorna, I feel like,
That's a mic drop moment
give
right
me a
there.
second, because I feel so emotionally connected to that experience. Like, I've been thinking so much, when I've been a business owner my entire adult life, and when I hit 30, 2 big major things happened to me. I made my first $1 million, and my mom was dying at the same time. And I couldn't wrap my head around who was going to win, my feminine or masculine. But I could find my strength in the masculine. And I remember fighting to death for that $1 million, because I felt like that's what's going to solidify me. Because I can't do anything about my mom dying, but I can do something about earning my solid existence and identity in the world as a business owner. And I realized that today, that's my struggle with helping women, is because I'm like, no, do it this. But that's where I think I'm shifting all of my ideals of, we have to, I got to that million because I was soul aligned. I just expressed it in a masculine way. I just didn't know how to do it again in this other space, because I'm working with women predominantly. And so there's a struggle. And I love how you just expressed it's okay to be me, because I'm both all the freaking time. And thank you so much for allowing me to see me in this experience of like, fuck yeah, I'm going to make my $1 million and wear my freaking crown all day long.
I love that. I just want
Balance,
to,
baby.
Abigail said that I think there's a warrior in both aspects. It is just expressed differently.
Absolutely.
And wonderful Alara chimed in and said, I agree with you 100%. We do.
Ugh.
We have both in us. We need to embrace who we authentically are
Right.
and just step into that. Because again, that is modeling for other people to know that it's okay.
Yeah, and the awareness that it just came is just, and what if we were to, when a baby comes into the world, they are just taking in things through their senses, right? Just taking it all in. And little by little, we start to label. Here's mommy, here's daddy, here's a dog, here's a cup, here's this. Oh, you're feeling angry, you're feeling sad, you're feeling lonely. We start to label that raw experience of what's happening. And what if, as we are trying to come to grips with understanding male, female, masculine, and feminine, is what if we were to just drop the labels and be
Ding, ding,
who
ding.
we are?
There you go. Wow.
It's the
That
dance.
that's because we feel so comfortable. That's what makes us feel comfortable is labeling things. We're gonna stop the bullshit. So I want to just close out with one thing from each of you. I would love for each of you to share a thought or um a what's the word I'm looking for? A thought, or let's just go with thought because I can't, the other word escaped me. It ran off. It's gone. My train derailed. A thought on how we continue because there are changes that have been happening. We are slowly moving. So I'd love to hear from each of you how you personally think that we continue on this path to head towards a healed society. So wonderful. Let's start with you. I'm not going to make you follow Lorna up.
What? Okay. Um, oh, you caught me off guard because I was waiting to be not last, but in the middle there. Um, okay, wait, ask the question again.
Just a thought on how you think we can continue, or what are some big steps we can take to move forward. One parting thought with how we move forward to continue on this path of healing society, where we're bringing both the divine, masculine, and feminine together as one.
So for me, I feel like I have my separate community, right? I've built my own community and all this. And I'm so heavily into business because that's where I am an expert in and I express at the greatest level of myself. And I think what I would love to do is keep introducing women like Cheyenne and Lorna to the field because the truth of the matter is that first $100,000, that first $1 million, it's never going to be arrived at just a tactical transactional format. Those days are done and dead. It can only be created from a wholeness of a human being that is really here to serve and to give love, but to also receive it and to accept it. And so, although my expertise is very tactical and strategical, it wasn't arrived just because of that. It was arrived because I worked with women like Shannon. I've worked with women. I've healed so many aspects of who I am. And I feel like when the business world can see that, and they're not just paying for more marketing whatevers or one more course in how to make $1 million, but to really look inside and see what they have in them to make, to earn that, to create that, to divinely move in that direction, that's where I think magic really starts to flow with women who want to bring their gifts and talents to the world and monetize it. So that's a way I think. With that, I invite my two new best friends of my, soul healing
Sisters.
to be on my own podcast and to be a part of my community.
Beautiful. I love that. I just want to comment. Alara commented with, yes, business is shifting very quickly, and we are moving into the expression of business via both polarities. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Wonderful. Cheyenne, you're up next, and then we'll let Lorna close it out.
Yay! I'm glad we're letting her close it out because I know she's just going to drop a mic for all of us.
Yeah.
To piggyback off of a lot of what Wonderful said, I heard a lot, like the biggest word that came in my mind was authenticity. That is the most attractive quality, no matter what you identify yourself as. And I think obviously we talked about a little bit of Age of Aquarius earlier. So that's the darkness is coming out to heal and rise and to unify with the light, so to speak. And I think that we're all doing that on our individual journeys where the more we get to know ourselves, we're looking in the mirror and we're going, this is the version of me that I love. This is the one that I'll fight for. This is when I know I'm authentic. And like for me, I have to audit myself all the time. And one of the biggest things that I do, especially for feminine power, is it's a quote that says, when the feminine is safe, she opens up. And I know we've talked about that more. When that hit me the first time, that's when my creativity exploded. That's when I was like, holy shit, I am a writer. Holy shit, I am a podcaster. Holy shit, I am a tie-dyer. Holy shit, how long has this creativity been shoved down in me? And I was just going to go work a corporate job and take a 401k and be like, dreams are silly. That's just so silly to have dreams. You know, I honestly probably would have died like a very lonely, sad individual, like not really knowing who I am.
A
And
shell
now
of
that I know
yourself.
who I am, yeah, I'm like, I am freaking proud of all the stuff that I do. Like when I tell people and I get zero response to what I'm doing because I'm one of a million podcasts and I'm one of a million books and I'm one of a million this. I'm like, do you understand what it took for me to find this piece of myself and then put it on the internet and not give a fuck about what you think? Okay, do you know what it took? Because if you don't, sit down and shut the fuck up. That's kind of where I was at with it. I was like, you don't know what hell I walked through to find myself, love myself, and then present myself to you. So if it's not a 5-star, get the hell out.
Hell yes.
I ain't got no time for you. You know, and that like, there's the villain era, but there's also, I know who I am. I know what I want to do on this earth, and I'm going to do it.
Drop the mic. Beautifully said, Cheyenne. Abigail says, these empowerment sessions are fire. Deborah says, I just love all of you. So, Lorna, take us home, baby.
What a true joy it is to be here with you, Cheyenne, and you, wonderful, and you, Brad, and this the potency of this chalice of this conversation, this container that's been created and is being held here. Again, it's as I used that analogy earlier of the fire of this potent container that's being held for this transformation, not only for each of us here, but for those who are listening and as it ripples out. So I just really want to honor each of you for what you have shared and for bringing yourself, your authenticity here for the transformation of each of us and society. So thank you.
Wow. That was a little tame from what I expected from you, actually.
That's not my closing. That was my thank you.
Okay. All right, here we go. Buckle up, baby. Get your seatbelts on.
It actually seems kind of simple, and yet I say it's simply powerful and powerfully simple. Because if we could just feel what's within, the world would change. We've all been taught to not feel. Don't feel so arrogant. Don't feel so bossy. Don't feel so sexual. Don't feel so um, wimpy. All of those things, males and females, we've all been taught don't feel. And I say by divine design, because that's where the treasure is. All of our labels are pointing us out there. What are you feeling? Oh, I'm feeling here. But no, it's like that bobber on the fish line. When you can take the bobber off, the hook gets to sink down deep.
Yeah.
So let the words and the images unattached. They're velcroed in. We think that what I'm feeling, oh, I'm feeling angry. No, I'm feeling the energy that's within. I've just called it anger. I've just called it frustration. I've just called it whatever it is. So we can just actually just let ourselves feel as fully as we can and be in there. We'll feel the shift will happen. And sometimes, but this is kind of great. There's some more energy. Come back home and feel. So this aspect of take us home, there's the key. Is we come home by feeling. It's simply powerful and powerful. Just to feel. And sometimes even that, okay, I'm trying to figure out what do I do next in my business? What do I do here? How do I deal with my child? How do I support this? What do I do? What's this emotion? Is kind of every one of those has a sensation inside. Every one of those is energy. So what do I do? What do I do with my business? What's my next thing? Okay, there's the signpost. There's something in here ready to be felt. So I can just feel and feel as fully as I can and use breath, because when trauma happens, the way that we go into protective mode is we hold our breath. So when there's something there that feels there, it might feel too intense, it might feel too emotional, it might feel whatever, to something, to use our breath to feel it. It's what allows us to come home. Breathe into sensation, it'll probably move. And if it feels like, oh, I can't handle this, it's because we're thinking we are this human form. It has to be contained within this human. No, let it go and feel and go beyond what we perceive as the human body and feel what's you felt.
Ooh, wow. Boom. This
Thank
was
you.
fucking incredible. Holy shit. What a powerful, incredible, inspirational, thought-provoking conversation. Thank all three of you for helping to create this and being part of this space to create this incredible conversation. I am so grateful to be connected to and to know each and every one of you. You're both beautiful. You're all beautiful and powerful souls. And I'm so grateful to have you as a part of the community, part of this platform, part of these sessions, and just to know you. You're all amazing and inspiring. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for being amazing. I don't even know what the fuck to say. Just thank you. I love you.
We're not worthy.
Oh,
Please, world.
Jesus. You ladies, like I feel like I just need you in my life every day, all day.
We'll definitely have to set
Brad.
something up.
Brad, thank you for helping me be a part of, for allowing me in your space, in your community, be a part of this world. I love you all, but I do have to get going.
Yep,
I have
no
another
problem.
place I gotta go. And thank you for the audience. And I felt like that was my own healing session.
Beautiful. Thank you. Wonderful.
Wonderful. Lovely
Thank
to
you all
meet you.
so
Talk
much.
soon.
Thank you to everyone who tuned in. It was an absolute pleasure. I'm glad to have helped facilitate this conversation. I'm glad that you all participated who watched. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you. All of you have an amazing rest of your Friday. Have a beautiful weekend and stay empowered. Thank you all. Have an amazing day, and we will see you at the next one.